Listen to me closely, because if you're hearing my voice right now, it's not by accident. You've been marked since birth, and the darkness has always known your name. What you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's the mirror of your own life, the confirmation you've been secretly searching for. If you've ever felt misunderstood, attacked for no reason, or like unseen forces were trying to break you, this is the message the enemy never wanted you to hear. And when you understand why demons recognize you instantly, everything in your life will start to make sense. So before we begin, hit that like button, drop a comment to claim your place as a chosen one, and subscribe so you never miss the truths that were meant to awaken you. Share this with someone else walking the same lonely road, because by the end of this, you'll see why your calling terrifies the darkness. You didn't hear it with your ears, you felt it in your bones. That weight in the air, heavy, almost metallic, pressing down on your skin, the way your chest tightened, your breath shortened, as if something unseen had just walked into the room. And though no one else noticed, you knew it wasn't paranoia, it wasn't overthinking, it was recognition, the same way you recognize the smell of rain before it falls, or the way you can sense someone's presence before they speak. Your spirit recognized what had just entered. Darkness, ancient, intelligent, and aware of you. You've had moments like this all your life, haven't you? Sitting in a crowded room, surrounded by laughter and chatter, and suddenly feeling those invisible eyes lock onto you. Or walking alone, minding your own business, when the atmosphere shifts and every hair on your arm rises. You tell yourself to ignore it, that you're just imagining things. But deep down, there's a voice whispering, they see you. And you're not imagining it, you're right. Because in the unseen realm, you are not anonymous. You are not just another face in the crowd. Your spirit carries a mark, one not placed by human hands. And it is this mark that makes every demon, every principality, every agent of darkness stop in their tracks when you walk by. They don't see the clothes you wear, the face you present, or the mask you put on for the world. They see light, they see authority, they see a name etched into eternity, glowing brighter than the night they crawl through, and it terrifies them. But here's the thing, no one tells you when darkness recognizes you. It doesn't simply step aside. It watches, it plots, it tests your resolve, waiting for a crack to slip through. Maybe that's why your life has never been easy. Why friendships have collapsed without explanation. Why people have turned cold on you for reasons they can't even articulate. Why opportunities you should have had slipped away in the final moments. It wasn't random. It wasn't bad luck. It was pressure applied strategically to make you doubt yourself, to make you step away from your calling. Think back. Really think. How many times have you been accused of things you didn't do? How many times have you felt like the enemy was fighting you through the very people you loved? How many times have you almost given up, only to find that something deep inside refused to quit? That's not ordinary resilience. That's the signature of a chosen one. And it's the same signature that makes the enemy's skin crawl. You see, the spiritual realm operates on recognition. Just like soldiers can recognize the insignia of an opposing army, spirits recognize spiritual authority. The moment you walk into a place, you shift the atmosphere, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. And here's where it gets real. Sometimes you felt the pushback so strongly that it's made you question your sanity. You felt the heaviness when you woke up, before the day even started. You felt the sudden anger or sadness that had no source. You've had dreams so vivid they felt like battles you couldn't explain to anyone without sounding crazy. Those weren't coincidences. They were encounters. The unseen world reacting to your very presence. And I need you to understand this. When you walk into a room, you are not stepping into neutral ground. You are stepping onto a battlefield. Some people smile at you, but the spirit behind them bristles. Some strangers are drawn to you without knowing why, while others glare for no reason at all. It's because your spirit is not hidden. It's because you carry something ancient, powerful, and dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. The problem is, you've been told to downplay it. You've been told to blend in. You've been told to stop thinking too much when you feel those shifts. But deep inside, you know this truth. You've been set apart, and no matter how much you try to bury it, the darkness can still see the flame inside you. This is why the attacks feel personal. This is why you feel like you can't trust many people. This is why your spirit reacts to things you can't logically explain. You're not imagining it, you're discerning it. But the question is, now that you know they see you, what will you do? Because here's the reality. The darkness doesn't just recognize you. It fears what will happen when you recognize yourself. When you stop doubting, when you stop playing small, when you start walking like you know the authority you carry, that's when the atmosphere truly shifts. That's when chains break in your presence. That's when places that have been spiritually stagnant for years begin to stir the moment you arrive. But the path to that kind of power is not easy. It will demand that you see through every deception, stand in the face of every storm, and refuse to let fear dictate your steps. And right now, you're at the threshold. The enemy knows it, and that's why the pressure has been worse lately. They're hoping you'll turn back. They're hoping you'll drown in self-doubt before you realize the truth. But you won't. You can't, because something inside you knows you were born for this. And if you keep walking forward, you're going to see exactly why demons have always reacted to your presence, and what happens when you step into the fullness of what you carried. The night after the storm, you couldn't sleep. Not because of the thunder, not because of the wind, but because of that moment in the alley. The way that stranger's face had twisted into something not entirely human. The way his eyes had locked on yours with a kind of terror you'd never seen in another person. You've been replaying it over and over in your mind, searching for an explanation. People don't just flinch like that without reason. And yet, you knew deep down, this wasn't the first time it had happened. Think back. You've seen it in the way strangers have stared too long. In the way people you've just met suddenly decide they don't like you without even knowing why. You've felt it in the moments when someone's smile fades the instant you walk into the room. When their posture stiffens as if an invisible alarm just went off. It's not your imagination. The truth is, the spiritual world always reacts before the physical world catches up. That man in the alley, he didn't just see you, he saw through you. And what he saw shook him to his core. You've been carrying something your entire life, something that was placed in you before you even knew how to speak. It's not visible to the human eye, but it's impossible to hide from the unseen realm. Demons can sense it instantly, like the scent of fire to a creature made of shadows. And here's the thing they won't tell you in church. They're not afraid of you because of your own strength. They're afraid because of what's been woven into your spirit. That's why your presence disturbs rooms you haven't even spoken in yet. That's why the spiritual attacks have always felt disproportionate to your current influence. Because, in the unseen, you're already a threat. You've felt this in small ways before. The sudden wave of heaviness before important moments. The inexplicable hostility from people you tried to help. The strange coincidences where things almost seem orchestrated to discourage you, isolate you, or make you doubt yourself. It's because the moment you step into alignment with your true calling, the impact will ripple through realms they've fought hard to control. But here's the part that might unsettle you, and maybe even make you doubt if you're ready for the rest of this story. The enemy's recognition of you didn't start last week or last year. It started before you were even born, and that means your entire life has been a battleground, one you never signed up for, but one you were destined to fight in. That's why certain doors closed for you even when they made sense. That's why some friendships ended without reason. That's why you were pulled away from certain opportunities that looked good but would have destroyed you. It wasn't coincidence. It was protection. You've been guided, hidden, and preserved for a moment the enemy has been trying to prevent for decades. But there's another side to this, one that explains the intensity of your struggles. You've been marked not just for purpose, but for warfare. And the enemy knows that the day you fully understand what you carry will be the day he loses his grip on territories he's ruled for generations. That's why some of your darkest battles weren't about what you were facing in the natural, but about what was happening in the unseen, where voices whispered lies into your mind, trying to convince you you're ordinary, broken, or unworthy. You felt it, haven't you? Those moments when the attack didn't even have a clear source, when it was just a heaviness, a fog, an ache in your spirit. The kind that makes you want to give up on things you were once passionate about, but you're still here. And the fact you're still breathing, still watching this, still leaning in when so many would have walked away, is proof of something the darkness hoped you'd never realize. Every attack you've endured has been a confirmation of your value in the unseen. They don't send armies against someone with no potential. They don't waste strategies on people who pose no threat. Think about it. When a king sends out soldiers, it's to defend something valuable. The more soldiers sent, the more precious the target. So, ask yourself, why has your life been marked by battles that others can't even imagine? It's because of what you carry. And tonight, you need to hear me when I tell you, what you carry is about to be called into action. The season of hiding is ending. The season of warfare is intensifying. And you're going to have to make a choice that will set the course for everything that happens next. You might think you're not ready. You might feel underqualified, but there's something you need to remember. The call on your life was never about your comfort. It's about your assignment. And your assignment is tied to breaking chains that have existed in your bloodline for generations. The man in the alley wasn't the first to see it, but he was the first to react in a way that made it impossible for you to keep pretending, because now you're starting to believe what I'd been telling you all along. They recognize you, and if they recognize you, it's time you recognized yourself. As the sun began to rise the next morning, you found yourself standing in front of the mirror, looking into your own eyes with a strange mixture of fear and curiosity. You almost wanted to ask your reflection, who are you, really? And somewhere deep inside, a voice answered, not out loud, not in words, but in a way you could feel in your bones. That was the moment you knew the battle wasn't waiting to begin. It had already started, and before the week was over, you'd see just how far the darkness was willing to go to stop you from discovering the full truth. That morning felt different. The light coming through your window didn't feel like the gentle invitation of a new day. It felt like a spotlight, and you couldn't shake the feeling that you were being watched, not in the paranoid, someone's following me way. This was deeper, heavier, almost like the air was carrying eyes. You went about your routine, making coffee, scrolling through your phone, but everything felt off. The world around you looked the same, but your spirit knew something had shifted. It was as if, the moment you started to believe the truth about what you carry, something in the unseen realm marked you with a giant flare. You'd heard people talk about spiritual warfare before, but now it wasn't a church sermon topic. It was reality. Around mid-morning, you noticed it. Little things at first. The way your phone froze when you tried to open your Bible app. The random headache that came out of nowhere. The sudden wave of fatigue, like you hadn't slept at all. These were small things, easy to brush off as coincidence. But you knew better. The enemy rarely starts with the obvious. He chips away at the edges, hoping you'll ignore the patterns until it's too late. You tried to push it aside, but then came the phone call, an unknown number. You almost didn't answer, but something in your gut told you to pick up. Hello. At first, silence. Then a voice, calm, measured, almost to calm. We've been watching you. Every muscle in your body tensed. Who is this? You asked. The voice chuckled softly. You think this is about names. Something inside you wanted to hang up. But something deeper, something braver, kept you listening. You've been carrying it your whole life. The voice continued. It's not yours, and if you don't hand it over, we'll take it. A click. The call ended. You stood there, phone still to your ear, heart pounding, not because you were afraid of a stranger's threat, but because you knew they weren't talking about anything physical. They were talking about it. The thing you'd started to become aware of. The thing the man in the alley had seen. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a random scare. This was a message from the other side. And if they were bold enough to call you directly, it meant the battle had moved into open confrontation. The rest of the day was a blur. People acted strange around you. A co-worker you'd always gotten, along with suddenly snapped at you over nothing. A friend cancelled plans with a flimsy excuse. Even strangers on the street seemed to glance your way with something in their eyes. You started to notice it, that subtle change in atmosphere when you walked into a place. It wasn't paranoia. You'd felt it before, but now it was impossible to ignore. By late afternoon, the heaviness was unbearable. You left work early and walked without a destination, just needing air. That's when you saw him, cross the street. Leaning against a lamppost, an older man, maybe in his 60s, wearing a long coat and a brimmed hat. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes, they were locked on you. It wasn't a threatening stare. In fact, there was something almost knowing in his gaze, like he was reading the pages of a book only he could see. You crossed the street, not really knowing why. As you got closer, he straightened and spoke before you could. You've started to feel it, haven't you? You froze. Feel what? He tilted his head slightly, a faint smile touching his lips. The weight of your calling, and the attention it brings. You wanted to deny it, to brush it off as coincidence, but something about him felt safe. Who are you? You asked. He glanced around, then leaned in slightly. Someone who's been where you are. Someone who knows what they're after. Your pulse quickened. His voice dropped lower. The ones who recognized you before you recognized yourself. They've been watching since before you could walk. And now that you're waking up, they'll stop at nothing to keep you from realizing why. The words landed heavy in your chest. You have something they fear, he continued. Not because it's rare, but because it's powerful. Because it's been consecrated. You think the enemy attacks at random. No, every strike, every betrayal, Every loss you've endured, it's been to wear you down before you could step into what you carry. You swallowed hard. And what exactly is that? His eyes locked with yours. Authority. The kind that can dismantle what they've built. The kind that can free people they've kept bound for generations. You felt the truth of it in your bones, and with it a flicker of something else. Fear, yes, but also a strange, fierce courage. The man reached into his coat and pulled out a small, worn book. He pressed it into your hand. "Read this," he said. "Not with your eyes, but with your spirit. The answers you're looking for aren't in explanations, they're in revelations. But be warned, once you see, you can't unsee." Before you could ask another question, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd as if he'd never been there. You stood there in the fading light, the book heavy in your hand, and felt the atmosphere shift again. But this time, it wasn't the oppressive heaviness you'd been feeling all day. It was something else, something watching, yes, but not with malice, more like expectation. You slipped the book into your jacket and started walking home, your mind racing. If what the man said was true, then the past weeks weren't random. The strange encounters, the spiritual attacks, the call from that voice, all of it was connected. And for the first time you realized that the real question wasn't why me. The real question was, what happens if I say yes? You didn't know yet that before the night was over, you'd get your answer, and it wouldn't come in the form of a gentle confirmation. It would come as a test, and you'd have to decide, right then and there, whether to shrink back into the shadows, or step fully into the light of what you were born to carry. That night, the city felt different. The air was colder than it should have been for the season, and a low, restless wind wound its way through the streets like it was carrying whispers. You walked home with the book the man had given you still tucked inside your jacket. Its presence felt electric, not heavy like a burden, but charged like a battery you didn't yet know how to use. Street lamps hummed overhead, your footsteps echoed against empty sidewalks. You caught yourself glancing behind you more than once, but each time you saw nothing, still. Your spirit was unsettled. When you reached your apartment, you didn't go straight to bed. You sat at the kitchen table, the book in front of you. Its cover was plain, no title, no author, just worn brown leather and frayed edges. You hesitated. The man's warning rang in your ears. Once you see, you can't unsee. Your fingers hovered over the cover for a long moment before finally opening it. At first, the pages were blank, completely empty. You turned them one by one, but nothing appeared. Frustrated, you leaned back. "What is this?" you muttered under your breath. Then, as if it had been waiting for the sound of your voice, ink began to bleed into the page. Not like normal writing, but like something emerging from the paper. It formed not words, but symbols. Old ones, ones you didn't recognize, but somehow understood. They carried meaning beyond language, sinking straight into your spirit. The first page spoke without speaking. "You are marked." The next, "What you carry is older than the war around it. They cannot touch it, only distract you from it." Your chest tightened. Another page turned on its own. "Before the light is revealed, the dark will come to test it." The words, or rather the truth behind them, struck you hard. Because even before you could process them, you felt it. The air shifted. Not metaphorically, the atmosphere in your apartment physically changed. The hum of the refrigerator cut out. The street noise outside went dead silent. even the wind, stopped. You weren't alone anymore. It started as a low vibration in your bones, like the floor itself was humming. Then came the pressure, a crushing weight that settled on your shoulders, your chest, your very breath. And then, the shadow. It wasn't cast by anything in your apartment. It was just there, stretching across the floor, up the walls, darkening the entire room. Your pulse thundered in your ears. You stood slowly, every instinct screaming to run. But where would you go? From the shadow, a voice rose. You think you understand what you are, it hissed, low and serpentine. But you are only a vessel, and vessels can be broken. The sound didn't come from one direction, it came from everywhere. Your mind raced for a response, but your mouth was dry. The shadow shifted, growing taller, its edges flickering like smoke. We tried to keep you asleep. We sent pain, betrayal, loss, and yet, here you are, opening doors you were never meant to open. You clenched your fists, fear mixing with a strange defiance. If I wasn't meant to open them, why are you so afraid I will? A pause, then a low, humorless laugh. Because once you see, you will fight. And once you fight, others will awaken. And once they awaken, we lose. The shadow lunged forward, not physically, but with a force that slammed into you like a wave. Your knees buckled and you hit the floor. Something cold and sharp pressed into your mind, not a blade, but a thought, invasive and insistent. Give it up, hand it over. Forget all of this and live in peace. And for a moment, you considered it, the weight of everything you'd endured pressed in, and the promise of peace was tempting. But then you remembered the man in the alley, the stranger with the coat and the book, the words in the pages, authority, that single word broke. Through the pressure like a spark through darkness, you forced yourself to your feet, breath ragged. You can't take what doesn't belong to you, you said, your voice shaking but growing stronger. And this you touched your chest was never yours. The shadow recoiled slightly, as if the words had stung, and then something happened you couldn't explain. Not with logic, not with science. The symbols from the book burned themselves into your vision, even with your eyes open. They surrounded you, forming a kind of invisible barrier. The weight lifted from your chest. The air returned to your lungs. The shadow hissed, retreating toward the far wall. This isn't over, it whispered. You've passed the first test, but the next will cost you. In a blink, it was gone. The lights flickered back to life. The fridge hummed again, and the distant city noise returned as if nothing had happened. You stood there, trembling, the book still open on the table. The symbols on the page pulsed faintly, like they were alive, and in that moment, you understood something you hadn't before. This wasn't just about surviving attacks. It was about learning to stand. You didn't know what the next test would be, but you knew two things. One, it would be bigger than this. Two, you wouldn't be facing it alone. Because somewhere out there, others like you were waking up, and whether you liked it or not, you had just become a signal to them. 3 nights passed without incident. Not that you slept much. Every creak in the walls, every flicker of light, every shadow cast in the corner of your vision made your heart jolt. You knew the entity's promise, the next will cost you, wasn't an empty threat. It was a countdown you couldn't hear but could feel ticking. On the 4th night, the call came. Your phone rang at exactly 3 a.m. The kind of hour when nothing good happens. The number was blocked. You hesitated, then answered. Don't speak, a voice said. Low, urgent, and unrecognizable. There's a car waiting for you outside. Bring the book, nothing else." The line went dead. You stood there, phone in hand, pulse racing. This could have been a trap, and yet your spirit whispered something different. It wasn't safe, but it was necessary. You slid the book into your jacket, threw on your boots, and stepped outside. Sure enough, a black sedan idled at the curb. The windows were tinted so dark you couldn't see inside. The back door opened without anyone leaning out. You climbed in. The interior smelled faintly of cedar and smoke. A figure sat across from you, a woman, mid-30s maybe, with sharp eyes that seemed to see more than they should. "You took long enough," she said flatly. "Hold on." Before you could ask where you were going, the car lurched forward. The city blurred past the windows. The woman didn't speak, and neither did the driver, a silent, broad-shouldered man with hands like carved stone gripping the wheel. After 20 minutes, you left the urban lights behind. The road narrowed, then gave way to a gravel path that wound into thick woods. No street lamps, no signs, just darkness swallowing the car whole. Finally, you stopped in front of what looked like an abandoned church. Its wood was weathered and blackened, its steeple leaning, its windows boarded. The woman got out first. "Come on." You followed her up the creaking steps and through a door that protested loudly against its hinges. Inside, the air was heavy with incense and something older, a scent you couldn't place but felt in your bones. The space was dim, lit only by candles arranged in careful patterns on the floor. 6 figures stood in a circle around a single wooden chair. "Sit," the woman ordered. You did. The tallest of the 6 stepped forward. His face was partially hidden by a hood, but his voice carried the kind of authority that didn't need volume. "You were marked before you were born," he said. "We've been watching, and now, we need to know if you're ready to carry what you carry." Your voice came out quieter than you intended. "And if I'm not," one of the others, a younger man with pale eyes, answered, "then the enemy won't have to take you. We'll end it here." The words hit like ice. Water. The hooded man circled you slowly. "You've already been tested once, but that was theirs. Now, it's ours." The woman who brought you here placed the book in your lap. You open it, you start it, you close it, you fail. You hesitated. Start what? Survival. The pale-eyed man said, "Your fingers found the worn leather cover. The moment you opened it, the air in the room shifted, just like before in your apartment, but heavier this time. It wasn't just one presence, it was many." The candle flames elongated, stretching unnaturally toward the ceiling. The shadows on the walls began to move on their own, bending and twisting into shapes that didn't belong to any of the people in the room. And then, the voices came, not spoken aloud, but in your head. Hundreds of them, whispering at once, overlapping, some pleading, some mocking, some screaming. "You don't belong here. They're lying to you. You're not chosen. You're cursed. Give it up. End it now." Your chest tightened. You gripped the arms of the chair, forcing yourself to breathe. One of the hooded figures spoke over the chaos. "They know what you carry. They fear it. That's why they try to twist your mind before they touch your body." But the voices didn't stop. They grew louder, more invasive, pushing memories you didn't want to see into your head. Moments of your worst failures, your deepest regrets, your most vulnerable fears. You clenched your eyes shut, and that's when you saw it, not with your physical sight, but in your spirit. A room, dimly lit. A chain stretched across the floor, and at the center of that chain was you, or at least a version of you. Tired, worn, and on their knees. The whispers circled that version of you like vultures, repeating the same lies over and over until they became almost believable. You felt a tug in your chest, the same pull you'd felt in the alley when you first met the man with the coat. Only this time it was stronger. The symbols from the book rose off the page like smoke, surrounding the chained version of you. And then you heard a single voice, calm but unyielding. Stand. You opened your eyes. The shadows in the church were closing in now, their forms sharper, more aggressive. Some of the hooded figures were struggling, gripping their own heads, muttering prayers under their breath. The pale-eyed man fell to his knees, shaking. "It's stronger than I thought," the hooded leader barked. "Stand." The same word you'd just heard inside your spirit. You rose from the chair. The whispers intensified, turning into roars. The shadows lunged, but the symbols from the book flared around you, expanding outward until they formed a ring of light on the floor. The figures stepped back as the shadows hit the barrier and recoiled. Shrieking, you spoke not from your mind, but from somewhere deeper. You cannot touch what's sealed. You cannot take what's given. And you cannot break what's already surrendered to the light. The moment the words left your mouth, the ring of light erupted upward, blasting. Through the darkness, the shadows disintegrated like smoke in the wind. The voices went silent, and then it was over. The air cleared. The candle flames returned to normal. The oppressive weight lifted. The hooded leader approached you slowly. For the first time, you saw his face, weathered, scarred, but steady. "You've passed," he said simply. "Barely, but you've passed." Your knees nearly gave out. What was that? He studied you for a long moment. That was a taste of what hunts you, and a taste of what you can do against it. The woman stepped forward, placing a hand on your shoulder. Most people crumble the first time. You didn't. The pale-eyed man, still catching his breath, muttered, "You didn't, because you've already fought longer than most of us did before we knew what we were." The leader handed the book back to you. "Don't lose it. And don't assume passing once means you'll pass again. Every battle will be harder than the last. Every time, the cost will rise." You nodded, still trembling. "So what now?" He looked toward the church's boarded windows. "Now, you learn, you train, you prepare. Because when the real war reaches your doorstep, it won't knock." The woman gestured toward the door. "We'll take you home. But when we call again, don't keep us waiting." The drive back was silent. But this time, you didn't feel alone. Not because the others were in the car, but because you finally knew there were more like you. People who had been tested, broken, rebuilt. People who had learned to see the shadows for what they were. Not all powerful, but desperate. When the car stopped in front of your apartment, the woman leaned over. "One more thing," she said. You turned to her. "When they come again, and they will, don't just defend. Make them remember your name." The car pulled away, leaving you under the cold glow of the street lamp. You stood there for a long moment, the book pressed to your chest, your breath visible in the early morning air. The street was quiet, too quiet, and somewhere deep inside, you knew the next test had already begun. You thought you'd been tested before, but nothing compared to what came next. That night, you lay in bed, eyes fixed on the dark ceiling, listening to the stillness pressing against your walls. Outside, the wind carried a strange heaviness, as if the air itself was holding its breath. And deep down, you could feel it. Something had crossed into your territory. It didn't come with a roar or a scream. No, this time, it came with the soundless glide of something ancient, something that had studied you long enough to know your weaknesses. It was the kind of presence that could slide between your thoughts without being invited. You turned to your side and saw the outline of your Bible on the nightstand. Your fingers itched to reach for it, but before you moved, you heard it. A whisper so faint, it felt like it came from the inside of your own skull. "We know you, chosen one." Your breath caught. You sat up, not in fear, but in recognition. The voice wasn't new. It was the same one that had spoken to you in moments of exhaustion. The one that tried to convince you to give up, to stop fighting, to believe the lie. That your battles were pointless, but this time it was bolder. It wanted you to hear it clearly. The darkness in the room thickened, curling into the corners. It was like the air was no longer air, more like liquid shadow pressing against your skin. You didn't flinch. You swung your legs over the bed and planted your feet on the floor. "Then you already know," you said aloud, your voice calm but edged with fire. "I'm not here to bow." The shadows shifted, not away from you, but toward you. You felt the heaviness in your chest grow, like an invisible hand was trying to squeeze the breath from your lungs. And then in your mind's eye, you saw them, not with your physical eyes, but with that deeper sight that only awakens in moments like this. Rows of them stretching into the distance. Some crouched low, their spines curved like predatory beasts. Others stood tall, their forms half human, half twisted beyond recognition. Their eyes, all of them, burned like hot coals in a void. They weren't just observing you, they were assessing you, measuring the force inside you. One of them stepped forward, taller than the rest, its shadow stretching across the unseen ground. It spoke with a voice like 1,000 whispers, layered over one another. "You carry something that doesn't belong to you." Your fists tightened at your sides. "It was given to me," you answered. "And no, it's not yours too." You could feel the clash happening, not in flesh, but in spirit. They didn't have to lunge or swing or attack. Their weapons were subtler: intimidation, deception, fatigue. But here's what they didn't expect. You stood, in your mind, your feet pressed into that unseen ground like roots anchoring deep into bedrock. You took a breath and felt that fire. The one they'd been trying to put out your whole life, swell in your chest until it reached your throat. And when you spoke again, your voice didn't sound like yours alone. It carried weight, authority, a resonance that made the air hum. "Every chain you've wrapped around my name breaks now." It was like you had thrown something at them. The first wave staggered back. The taller one hissed its burning eyes. Narrowing, they were right about one thing. What you carried wasn't from you. It was older, purer, untouched by their corruption, and they hated that they couldn't contaminate it. The fire in you wasn't just for protection, it was for confrontation. You took a step forward. The taller one took a step back. A ripple moved. Through the ranks, confusion, hesitation, the faint scent of fear. And that's when you realized something the darkness never wanted you to know. They tremble not because you're flawless, but because you stand anyway. Because no matter how many times they've tried to bury you, you keep rising. Because you carry the one thing their kingdom cannot counterfeit: divine authority. The air shifted again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was charged, like the first rumble before a storm. You spoke once more, not in a shout, but in a tone that made the unseen walls of that spiritual space quake. You can watch me, you can follow me, but you will not touch what's been placed in me. Leave now, every single one of you. They didn't vanish all at once. The retreat was slow, deliberate, as if each step away was a reluctant admission of defeat. But the moment their eyes left you, you knew the territory around you had been marked, not by them, but by the one who sent you. You opened your physical eyes again, and the room was still. Just you, the night, and the quiet hum of a world that had no idea what had just unfolded. But you knew. You knew the truth they tried to hide from every chosen one, that the battle isn't only about surviving the attack. It's about forcing the enemy to remember that no matter how many shadows they send, light doesn't negotiate. And for the first time in a long time, you smiled in the dark, because you knew they'd be back. And you also knew they'd find you standing. The next day, you moved through the world like nothing had happened. People passed you on the street, eyes fixed on their phones, minds caught up in their own storms. No one knew that last night, the ground beneath your feet had shifted in ways most will never understand. But even as you walked, you felt it, that faint echo in the air, like someone was still watching, not with curiosity, but with intent. You see, chosen one, that's the thing about spiritual battles. They don't always end when you think they do. Sometimes, the enemy retreats, not because they've given up, but because they're regrouping. And that's exactly what was happening now. You ducked into a small cafe, the kind with old wood tables and the smell of roasted coffee beans clinging to the walls. You sat in the corner, back against the wall instinct, and ordered something hot, even though you weren't there for the drink. Your eyes scanned the room. To anyone else, it looked normal. A man tapping on a laptop, a young woman flipping through a worn paperback, a couple in the corner talking in hushed tones. But you've learned not to just look at people. You've learned to read the air around them. And that's when you noticed him, middle-aged, suit and tie, but too crisp for someone just grabbing a coffee. His hands rested on the table, but they didn't fidget, didn't move. His eyes didn't wander. They stayed locked, not on you directly, but just to the side of your head. The kind of gaze that pretends it's not a gaze. The atmosphere around him was wrong. Not loud, not aggressive, just off. Like a song playing a half step out of tune. You looked away, pretending not to notice. You knew the rules: never break cover too soon. Let them think you're unaware. Let them show their hand first. Minutes passed. Your coffee sat untouched. The man reached for his phone, pressed it to his ear, but didn't speak. Not once. You knew then this wasn't just a man. Your spirit caught the scent. This wasn't flesh and blood staring from across the room. This was a vessel. Something was sitting inside that skin, wearing it like a well-tailored suit. And then, in the quiet of your own mind, it came, that same layered voice from the night before. You can't hide in public. We see you everywhere. Your jaw clenched, but your breathing stayed even. You didn't need to answer in your head. You had already learned these things thrive on your reaction. Instead, you reached for your coffee, lifted it slowly, and took a sip, outwardly calm. Inwardly, your spirit flared like a drawn blade. If the enemy wanted to play in daylight, you were ready to meet them there. You closed your eyes for a brief moment and saw it, not the cafe, but the overlap between the seen and unseen. The man's outline flickered, replaced by something far taller, its head almost brushing the ceiling. It leaned forward, its eyes glowing faintly. Its mouth curled into something between a smirk and a snarl. You didn't give it the satisfaction of speaking first. "I don't blend into your world," you whispered under your breath, "because I'm not from it, and neither are you." Its smirk faltered. Not much, but enough. The air shifted. Someone laughed across the room, the sound loud and jarring, like a glass breaking in a quiet house. You opened your eyes, and just like that, the man was gone. Not left, gone. No footsteps, no sound of a door opening, just gone. The rest of the cafe, didn't he notice? Of course, they didn't. That's how it works. You stayed for a few more minutes, letting the normal rhythm of life wash over you. Again, but you knew the encounter wasn't random. It was reconnaissance. They wanted to see how rattled you'd get in the daylight. When you finally stepped back outside, the world seemed almost too bright. The sky a shade to blue, as if reality itself was trying to reassure you. But the spirit inside you whispered something different. They're testing your endurance. Stay ready, and you understood. This wasn't about intimidation anymore. This was about persistence. The enemy had realized they couldn't break you in one blow, so now they'd try to wear you down. You walked for hours that day, through streets you knew well, past buildings you'd passed 100 times. But with every step, you prayed, not for safety, but for clarity. Because the real danger for a chosen one isn't always the attack itself. It's distraction. You can survive. A direct hit if you see it coming. But if the enemy can scatter your focus, they can slip in while you're busy swatting at shadows. By late afternoon, the city began to glow with that golden hour light. You sat on a bench in the park, watching the leaves sway in the breeze, feeling the tension in your shoulders slowly unravel. And then, without warning, the atmosphere around you changed. Not heavy, not hostile, still, too still. The hair on your arms rose. You turned your head slightly, and there she was, a little girl, maybe 7 or 8, standing a few feet away. Her dress was simple, her shoes scuffed. She smiled at you, with an innocence so pure it almost disarmed you. But then, her eyes, not cruel, not demonic, but ancient in a way no child's eyes should be. You didn't move, neither did she. For a long moment, you just studied each other, and then she spoke. They know what you're carrying, but they still don't know who sent you. A chill moved through you, but not from fear. This wasn't an enemy. You knew that instinctively. This was someone else. You leaned forward slightly. "And who sent me?" you asked. Her smile widened, but instead of answering, she turned and walked away. Not fast, not slow, just enough to let you know you could follow if you chose. You stood, every instinct telling you this was part of the path. And as you followed her through the winding park paths, you noticed something strange. The sounds of the city fading behind you. No traffic, no footsteps, just the wind in the trees. Finally, she stopped in a small clearing you'd never noticed before. The sun filtered through the leaves, casting patterns on the ground. She turned to face you again, and for a moment, her eyes seemed to carry the reflection of a vast, star-filled sky. "You think the battles are about you," she said softly, "but they're not. They're about the one who chose you. You carry his mark. That's what they see. That's why they come." Her words sank into you like seeds. You'd known pieces of this truth, but never so plainly. "They can't erase the mark," she continued, "but they can try to make you doubt it. Every attack, every whisper, every shadow. It's all to make you question what you've already been told. You swallowed hard, the weight of her words pressing against your chest. And what happens if I stop questioning? Her smile returned, gentle this time, almost sad. Then the fire grows, and they can't touch it. You blinked, and in that blink, she was gone. No sound, no footsteps, just like the man in the cafe, but this time, the absence didn't feel wrong. It felt like a door quietly closing after delivering a message. You stood in that clearing for a while, letting the light soak into you, and you realized something. This wasn't just about surviving encounters. It was about remembering why you'd been given what you carry in the first place. And in that moment, you made a silent vow not just to fight, but to walk in a way that made every demon remember the night they first recognized you. The night had a strange stillness to it, the kind of quiet that feels more like a warning than a blessing. You've felt it before, that eerie sense that something is holding its breath just beyond the edge of your awareness. The street outside your window is empty, yet you can feel eyes on you, and not the eyes of people. There's a truth most never speak about, because it shakes the comfortable illusion they live in. The spiritual world is never silent. Even now, as you sit here, there are forces that have you marked. Some wait for you to stumble. Others, older and darker, are drawn to your light like predators in the dark. They can feel you, they can smell the calling on you, and whether you know it or not, you've been walking with a target on your back since the day you were born. You might think back to the countless bad luck moments you've had, plans suddenly falling apart, people turning against you for no clear reason, sudden illnesses that seemed to come out of nowhere. Do you really believe all of that was just coincidence? No, chosen one. Those weren't accidents. Those were precise strikes. The kingdom of darkness doesn't waste time or energy. When it moves with precision, and you've been high priority since the beginning. This is why your life hasn't been like other people's. You've seen friends walk away from situations unscathed, while you've been caught in storms that seemed to come from nowhere. You've been betrayed by people you trusted the most. You've been mocked for holding on to values others easily throw away. It's not that you were unlucky, it's that your light draws battles to you. Think of it like this. If a soldier carries classified information, the enemy will use every weapon, every tactic to capture them. You're carrying something far more valuable than data. You're carrying a spiritual assignment that can shift destinies. That's why demons don't just know about you. They recognize you instantly. They see the seal that heaven placed on you, even when you doubt it yourself. Some of you have wondered, if I'm truly chosen, why do I feel so weak? Why do I keep breaking down? But hear me. Weakness in the flesh is not the same as weakness in the spirit. In fact, the very fact that you've survived everything meant to destroy you is proof of your spiritual resilience. The enemy's plan was never to inconvenience you. It was to eliminate you before you even discovered your identity. But you're still here. That alone terrifies them. And I need you to understand, every attack you've survived has been part of a larger play. You've been trained in fire. The betrayals hardened your discernment. The heartbreaks sharpened your focus. The loneliness forced you to learn how to hear the voice of God without the noise of the crowd. And yes, the exhaustion you felt is real, because spiritual battles drain more than physical ones. You've been carrying weight that others can't even see. I remember a vision once. You might have had something similar. It's the image of a battlefield stretching endlessly in both directions. The ground is littered with the remains of old battles, broken weapons, tattered banners, footprints dried in the mud. In the middle of it all, you stand alone, not because no one cares, but because no one else was built to withstand what you can. And all around you, in the shadows, are eyes watching, measuring, waiting. They know they can't get close without exposing themselves, so they wait for the moment you drop your guard. But here's what shakes them. You keep getting back up. You keep fighting when any normal person would have surrendered. You've taken blows that should have left you bitter, yet somehow your heart remains open. You've faced losses that should have turned you cold, yet you still hope. Demons tremble at that, because hope in the hands of a chosen one is a weapon sharper than any blade. Let's be honest, you've been misunderstood your whole life. People label you too sensitive, too intense, too different. They don't understand that you're not just reacting to life, you're reacting to the currents beneath it. When you walk into a room and suddenly feel heavy, for no reason, that's not mood, that's discernment. You're picking up on spiritual atmospheres, and the enemy will use that against you if you're not careful, trying to make you believe those feelings are flaws instead of gifts. But chosen one, your sensitivity is not a weakness, it's your radar, and the fact that you sense things others don't is part of why demons fear you. You can feel their presence even before they reveal themselves. You can hear the lies in someone's words even when their smile is flawless. You've walked away from situations everyone else thought were fine, only to later discover they were traps. The truth is, you've been operating on a higher battlefield all along. The problem is, you've been taught to fight with the wrong weapons. You were taught to respond with anger, with fear, with human reasoning. But those are weapons the enemy can control. The moment you switch to spiritual weapons, prayer, worship, the word, the battlefield shifts in your favor. And here's something the darkness doesn't want you to remember. Every attack is proof of your value. Thieves don't break into empty houses. Armies don't surround useless cities. If the enemy keeps targeting you, it's because you're carrying something worth stealing. And that something is not just your potential, it's your authority. Authority that comes from survival, from obedience, from faithfulness when it would have been easier to give up. Some of you are in the middle of one of the heaviest battles of your life right now. You've been feeling like everything is pressing in, finances collapsing, relationships fracturing, your own health under attack. It feels coordinated because it is. But I'm here to remind you, coordination works both ways. While the enemy has been setting traps, heaven has been setting ambushes. The very pressure meant to break you is about to push you into a level of clarity and strength you've never known before. Picture this: a predator stalking prey in the dark. The prey seems unaware, moving slowly, waiting. But then, at the exact moment the predator lunges, the prey turns, and it's not prey at all. It's a warrior with a sword, ready and waiting. That's you. The enemy thinks you're still naive, still unsure. But what they don't realize is that every scar you carry is a blade sharpened for war. And maybe you're asking, if demons recognize me, why doesn't the world? Because the world is blind to spiritual rank. They measure worth by wealth, status, charm. But in the unseen, you're already known. That's why strangers sometimes stare at you longer than they should. That's why certain people dislike you instantly without knowing you. It's not personal, it's spiritual. Something in them reacts to what's in you. You've been wondering if the loneliness will ever end. And I need you to hear me, it will. But it will end in the right way, not the way you've been tempted to force. Because not everyone can walk this path with you. God will send the right allies at the right time, people who recognize not just your humanity, but your calling. Until then, you are being kept, protected, hidden in plain sight. So here's what I need you to do, starting tonight. Stop thinking like prey. Stop questioning your worth every time you're attacked. The attacks are the confirmation. When the next wave comes, and it will stand still, don't run, don't panic. Let the enemy see that you've recognized the game. Because the moment you stop reacting in fear, their power begins to break. And if you've been feeling the pressure intensify lately, it's because you're close. Not just to breakthrough, but to revelation. Once you fully see yourself as heaven sees you, the enemy loses the ability to define you. And when that happens, your presence alone will be enough to shift atmospheres. You won't even have to speak. That's what they fear most. That's why they've tried to bury you in doubt, in heartbreak, in self-sabotage. But every time you rise, you prove them wrong. And chosen one, you will rise again. You've noticed it, haven't you? The way people sometimes flinch when you enter the room, or how their eyes dart away just a second too quickly. You might think it's your presence, your tone, maybe even the way you dress. But no, it's something far deeper, far older. It's the mark you carry, one not written in ink, but in light. And here's the thing about light: the brighter it shines, the more the shadows panic. You've been learning, slowly, how to live with this. But living with it and understanding it are two very different things. And in the last few weeks, it's been building that feeling of pressure in your spirit. Like the air is thicker, like something is moving around you that you can't quite see. It's not your imagination. What's happening now is an intensification. Every chosen one goes through it. It's the moment the enemy realizes you've survived every trap, every attack, every snare they've set for you, and you're still standing. You're not just standing, you're stronger, sharper, more aware, and that makes you dangerous to them. So they change their tactics. No longer are they trying to take you down in obvious ways. That didn't work. Now they move in whispers, not in your ears, but in the mouths of others. The coworker who suddenly changes toward you without reason. The friend who starts pulling away. The family member who can't explain why they just feel off around you now. You see, the presence you carry disrupts the spirits influencing them. And when those spirits sense your growth, they act before you can spread it any further. This is why your relationships have been shifting. Why certain people you thought were for you have revealed their true colors. You've been given the gift and the burden of discernment, but discernment comes with pain. I'm not talking about small heartbreaks. I'm talking about watching people you love turn cold. Realizing the bond you thought was unshakable was never rooted in truth. And yet, even in that pain, you feel a strange peace. Because somewhere deep down, you knew this was inevitable. The truth is, your spirit started calling them out long before your words did. You didn't even have to say anything. The frequency you walk in started clashing with theirs, and they couldn't bear to be around it. That's why you've been hearing those quiet thoughts. Am I going to end up alone? Is this my life forever? Let me answer that plainly. No. You're not meant to be alone forever. But yes, this season will test your endurance in solitude, because it's in solitude that your authority is forged. You cannot carry the weight of your calling without learning to stand unshaken in the absence of applause. And make no mistake, applause is easy to come by when you're playing small. But when you start moving in the full measure of who you are, the room gets quiet. Not because you've lost your value, but because you've revealed theirs. People have to decide. who they are when they stand next to someone like you. And that decision terrifies them. You've been asking yourself, why does this keep happening? Why can't I just have a normal life? But you weren't designed for normal. Normal doesn't break generational curses. Normal doesn't deliver people from bondage. Normal doesn't scare demons. And that's exactly what you do. You scare them. Not because you're loud, not because you're aggressive, but because you walk with an authority that's not of this world. You have something in you that cannot be bought, cannot be replicated, cannot be touched unless you allow it. That's why hell has studied you since you were a child. They know the weapons you carry. They know the words you speak carry weight beyond the natural. And they know if you ever fully realize that their grip on the lives around you is over. So what do? They try to convince you you're powerless. They try to wear you down with delays, distractions, and disappointments. They try to make you believe the war is over you, when in truth, the war is over what's inside you, because inside you is freedom for more than just yourself. And that's why this moment in your life is so critical. You're at the point where you can either retreat into comfort or advance into destiny. And advancing will cost you, but retreating will cost everyone assigned to you. You can't afford to sit this one out. This is why your nights have been heavier, why you've been waking up between 3 and 4 a.m., feeling that strange weight in the atmosphere. That's not insomnia. That's a summons. Your spirit is being awakened for battle before your mind even understands the fight. The truth. You've already been winning battles in your sleep. Ever had those dreams where you're fighting something you can't quite see? Or standing in a place you've never been, speaking words you didn't even know you knew? That's not random. That's your spirit operating in authority beyond the physical. And here's what's wild. The darkness recognizes it. That's why sometimes you wake up feeling like you've run a marathon. Your body might be tired, but your spirit has been moving. You might not always remember the details, but deep down, you know when you've pushed something back. You wake up with a strange calm, even if the day ahead is chaos. That calm is proof, because no matter how loud the attacks are, there's a quiet confidence growing in you. And that confidence, it's lethal to the enemy's plans. But I'm going to tell you something most people won't. That confidence will scare the wrong people, just as much as it scares demons. Some will try to compete with it. Others will try to diminish it. And a few will try to imitate it without the discipline or the purity that sustains it. And when they fail, they'll blame you. This is where you have to decide. Will you shrink to make them comfortable, or will you keep rising knowing they'll misunderstand you? I already know the answer. You wouldn't still be listening if you were the shrinking type. So here's what's next. You have to start operating as if the authority you carry is not up for debate. No more second guessing if you're hearing from God. No more pretending. You don't feel what you feel just to avoid awkward conversations. No more dimming your light so the shadows can breathe easier. The next phase of your life will require boldness, not the loud, flashy kind, but the quiet, steady kind that walks into a room and shifts it without saying a word. And when you do, you'll start noticing something incredible. The very people who once dismissed you will start seeking you out, not because they suddenly see your value, but because they can't deny the results you carry. This is the irony of the chosen one's journey. The ones who once whispered against you will one day whisper your name in rooms you've never entered, not for your glory, but for His. But here's the turn. The moment you step into that level of influence, the battle will change again. Because influence attracts attention, and attention attracts resistance. You'll have to guard your heart more fiercely than ever. And that's where the next phase begins. Because there's a place you're about to step into where your presence won't just be recognized, it will be anticipated. And when the darkness sees you coming, they won't wait to attack. They'll try to intercept you before you even arrive, which means you're going to need a strategy you haven't used before. And that strategy is about to be revealed in ways you never imagined. You've noticed it, haven't you? The moment you walk into certain rooms, the air changes. It's not just paranoia. People shift in their seats. Their tone hardens. Some go quiet as if they've swallowed a secret they can't let you hear. Others suddenly become louder, more arrogant, almost as if they're trying to prove something in your presence. And sometimes, without warning, someone will lash out at you over the smallest thing. You've asked yourself 1,000 times, why does this keep happening to me? The answer is uncomfortable, but freeing. You are not invisible. You are spiritually loud. You carry a frequency that hell cannot ignore. When you enter a space, you disrupt every spirit that does not align with God's light. It's why people you barely know might suddenly dislike you without reason. It's why that coworker who's never spoken to you suddenly starts spreading rumors. It's why old friends turn cold the moment you start walking in your purpose. They're not reacting to your personality. They're reacting to your anointing. Truth is, the moment you began stepping into your calling, you became a walking alarm bell for the enemy's camp. Every step you take, every word you speak, every choice you make that aligns with God's plan, it burns, not just in the physical sense, but in the spiritual. And this is where many chosen ones make the mistake of thinking they're cursed. You start believing something's wrong with you. You start dimming your own light to fit into rooms you were sent to transform. But I need you to hear me. Stop apologizing for your fire. The enemy has spent years trying to convince you that your presence is a problem, that you're too intense, too different, too much. And you believed it for a while, didn't you? You thought maybe if you toned yourself down, life would get easier. Maybe if you stayed quiet, people would stop leaving. Maybe if you hid your strength, you wouldn't feel so alone. But here's the truth. That was never going to work. Because you were born to be noticed. Not by the world's standards, but by heaven and hell alike. You were born to carry a spiritual signature so unique that no demon can mistake it. Even now, as you listen, something inside you is stirring. A memory of every time you've been singled out. Every unexplained attack. Every betrayal that cut you deep. You thought it was random, but it was targeted. You see, demons don't waste resources. They don't spend time attacking people who are already theirs. They go after the ones who threaten their plans. And you, chosen one, are a walking threat. This is why your battles have been so relentless. It's why the attacks often come when you're on the verge of something good. Right when you're about to step into a blessing, suddenly chaos breaks out. Relationships crumble. Finances dry up. Health problems appear out of nowhere. It's a strategy, a coordinated attempt to distract you, to exhaust you, to get you to quit before the breakthrough. But here's where they fail. The more they push, the stronger you become. The more they try to silence you, the louder your testimony grows. Every storm you've survived has only added weight to your authority in the spirit. And here's the part they can't stand. They can't undo what God has already sealed. Over your life, you may not feel powerful all the time. You may still wrestle with fear, doubt, and pain. But I'm telling you, even at your weakest, you carry something hell is terrified of. Why? Because you carry truth, and truth cannot be killed. Think about Jesus walking into a room full of people possessed by unclean spirits. They didn't wait for him to speak. They didn't wait for him to call them out. They recognized him instantly and cried out, "Why have you come to torment us before the appointed time?" You carry that same light, and whether you know it or not, it announces itself before you even speak. It's not arrogance. It's spiritual reality. And here's the challenge. Now that you know this, you can't go back to living unaware. You can't keep thinking you're just unlucky. You can't keep blaming yourself for every rejection. You have to start seeing these moments for what they are. Evidence that you are exactly who God says you are. That doesn't mean it would be easy. In fact, the closer you get to fulfilling your purpose, the more intense the resistance will become. But you've already proven you can survive what was meant to destroy you. You're still here, you're still breathing, and you're still carrying that light. The enemy can't change that, but they can try to make you lay it down. That's the real battle. Not just against outside attacks, but against the voice in your head telling you it's not worth it. That maybe you should just live quietly and avoid the drama. But if you did that, you'd never see the fullness of what you were meant to do. You'd never see the chains break in people's lives because of your obedience. You'd never see the people who were watching you from the shadows finally come forward to say, "Because you didn't give up, I found my way back to God." Do you understand now why you can't quit? You're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for everyone connected to your assignment. And yes, demons know that too. It's why they work overtime to keep you isolated. They know that if you ever truly believed in your own authority, you'd become unstoppable. So here's what I'm telling you to do. Stop second-guessing your discernment. Stop apologizing for your presence, and stop treating spiritual warfare like a random inconvenience. Start treating it like proof. Because if they're coming for you this hard, it's not because you're weak. It's because you're dangerous to their agenda. And when you understand that, the fear starts to break. You begin to walk differently. You stop needing everyone to like you. You stop being surprised when people fall away. You stop trying to explain yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You start showing up fully, even when the room shifts. And here's the twist. The same people who once treated you like an enemy will one day have no choice but to acknowledge the power of God in your life. Not because you argued with them, not because you proved yourself, but because the fruit will speak for itself. Your resilience will speak. Your peace will speak. Your joy in the middle of chaos will speak. And when it does, they'll know what the demons have known all along. You were chosen, and nothing they do can change it. You carry something they can't touch. And that chosen one is why they tremble. You thought the attacks were over by now. You thought maybe the enemy had given up, but you were wrong, because the closer you get to your full power, the more desperate the darkness becomes. You can feel it before you even open your eyes in the morning, that heavy, unshakable pressure in the air. Not just tiredness, not just stress, but something spiritual leaning against you, hoping you won't notice. I'm going to tell you the truth. Every step you've taken lately has been watched. Every prayer you've whispered in the quiet has been heard. Not only by God, but by those who wish you would fail. And here's what makes you dangerous to them. You haven't stopped. Even when the attacks came in the middle of the night. When you woke up with a racing heart and a fear you couldn't explain, you still got up. You still faced the day. You still chose light over darkness. That alone is enough to make demons tremble. But now something is shifting inside you. The old fears that used to paralyze you, they're turning into fuel. The pain that used to weigh you down, it's becoming the reason you rise higher, and the enemy hates it, because you are no longer just surviving. You are stepping into a season where you will command. Do you notice how your presence has changed lately? People you used to hide from are suddenly the ones looking away. Environments you once felt unsafe in no longer hold the same power over you. It's not because the attacks stopped. It's because you've learned how to walk with a different authority. You've begun to understand that what's within you is greater than what's against you. And that knowledge, it's like a sword the darkness can't touch. But I need you to hear this clearly. You will be tested. Not tested in the way you were before, with obvious obstacles or loud enemies, but in quiet, subtle ways. This is where the darkness gets strategic. They'll try to plant thoughts in your mind that sound like your own voice. You're not ready yet. You're imagining all of this. You're not as strong as you think you are. They know if they can't destroy you physically, they'll try to make you doubt yourself spiritually. That's why, in this season, your mind must become your strongest fortress. Picture this. You walk into a room and the atmosphere shifts. You can feel it. The conversation changes. People glance in your direction. Some with curiosity, some with suspicion, and some with something darker. This isn't paranoia. This is discernment. You're picking up on spirits before words are spoken. You're recognizing intentions before actions are taken. And that's not an accident. This is the stage of your calling where God sharpens your senses, because what you carry requires you to move with precision. You are no longer the person who rushes into situations blindly. Now, you can sense when something is off before anyone else notices, and that awareness, it's a weapon. But let me warn you, weapons attract warfare. Every time you use your discernment, you expose something the enemy wanted to keep hidden. That means you will be targeted for simply seeing the truth. Some people will suddenly cut you off. Others will accuse you of things you never did. Doors you thought were open will close unexpectedly. It's not rejection, it's protection, because God knows that where you're going, not everyone can follow. And the darkness knows that the fewer distractions you have, the more dangerous you become to their agenda. There's something else you've probably noticed lately. The acceleration. It's like everything is happening faster than before. Revelations are coming quickly. Opportunities are appearing without warning. Your ability to understand spiritual truths is growing at a speed that surprises even you. That's because when you survive a certain level of warfare, God promotes you to a new level of authority. You've been in the wilderness long enough. You've been trained, tested, and refined. Now you're being positioned. But with new levels come new assignments. You will be sent to places where the spiritual climate is heavy. You might not even want to go. The energy there might feel suffocating. But that's exactly why you're being sent. You are a carrier of light. Where you walk, chains break. Where you speak, lies are exposed. The enemy can sense this before you even arrive. That's why certain situations start feeling tense days before you get there. They're preparing for your arrival the same way an army braces for battle. And yet, here's the twist. They're afraid, yes, they'll try to intimidate you, throw distractions in your path, and even send people to discourage you. But deep down, they know they've already lost the moment you show up. You've probably felt that in certain encounters, that quiet awareness that you're not the one who's afraid. It's not arrogance. It's spiritual reality, because the presence of God in you announces defeat to anything that opposes him. Now I have to tell you about the dream. A few nights ago, I saw a vision so vivid I could feel the heat in the air. You were standing on a cracked stone path in the middle of a vast, empty desert. In the distance, dark figures were circling, their shapes shifting like smoke. They didn't approach, they didn't attack, they just stayed back, watching. And then I understood they couldn't come closer because of the light around you. It wasn't blinding to you, but to them, it was unbearable. It wasn't the light of your personality. It wasn't the light of good intentions. It was the light of authority, the kind that comes only from surviving battles most people would never recover from. The kind that makes the spiritual world take notice the moment you walk into it. So, what happens next? You're entering the phase where your life becomes a statement, without you saying a word. Your presence alone will make the darkness uneasy. Your resilience will frustrate every plan against you. But this is also where isolation can creep back in. Not because you're failing, but because so few can walk at this level without breaking. Don't mistake solitude for abandonment. This is consecration. You're being set apart. Again, for something bigger than you can imagine. And here's the turning point. In the next phase, you will not just defend yourself against attacks. You will dismantle them before they even begin. You will move from reaction to strategy, from waiting to acting, from being hunted to hunting what's been trying to destroy you. The roles are about to reverse, and when they do, you'll understand why your entire life has been preparing you for this exact moment. You've started noticing something lately, haven't you? That the people who once doubted you are now quietly watching you. The same ones who whispered behind your back, who rolled their eyes at your faith talk or your strange, deep insights. They're suddenly curious. They might not admit it, but they're drawn to you. Do you know why? It's because the authority you carry is no longer just a seed. It's blooming. You're not just talking about light anymore. You're radiating it. And the spiritual realm can't help but respond. That's why doors are starting to open. But notice how right as they do, distractions show up in disguise. That's not random. That's the enemy trying to slip in through the side while you're focused on the front. He'll send people who seem supportive, but whose true purpose is to dilute your focus, slow your momentum, or twist your vision just enough that you miss the mark. Chosen one, you cannot afford to drop your guard now. This stage, right here, is one of the most dangerous for those who carry heavy spiritual assignments. Not because the attacks are stronger than before, but because they're smarter. You've proven you can resist obvious darkness. So now the strategy against you is subtle infiltration. Think about it. The serpent didn't come to Eve hissing with fangs bared. He came speaking, reasoning, sowing doubt in a way that sounded almost reasonable. That's how subtle attacks work when you're walking in authority. They feel like small compromises, like harmless distractions, like good opportunities that aren't actually God's opportunities. But here's the truth. Your spirit knows that quiet unrest you feel when something's off. That's not paranoia. That's the Holy Spirit giving you advance warning. I need you to take this seriously. In the season you're entering, you must treat every connection, every opportunity, every chance meeting as something to test in prayer. Because not everyone sent to you is from God. Some are dispatched specifically to study you, copy you, or pull you into their agenda. Now, here's the beautiful, almost ironic thing. Demons recognize you instantly, but so do angels. You're not walking through this unprotected. You've got divine surveillance around you that sees far beyond what you can. The question is, will you slow down enough to listen? That's where many chosen ones stumble. They run on adrenaline, on mission, on passion, and forget that part of their power comes from stillness. The enemy thrives on chaos. Heaven moves in order. Your spiritual discernment sharpens most when you are still enough to hear the whisper before the storm. And you, my friend, are going to need that whisper, because something's coming, not in a fear-mongering way, but in a way that should stir your spirit to prepare. There's a convergence ahead in your path where your influence, your spiritual authority, and your personal calling collide with a confrontation you didn't see coming. This won't be like the battles you've fought before. This one will be public. It will be visible. People will watch to see how you respond, and your reaction will speak louder than any sermon you could ever preach. The pressure will be intense, but so will the grace. And if you hold your ground, it won't just shift your life, it will send shockwaves in the spirit that break chains for others watching from the sidelines. But here's the weighty part. In that moment, the demonic forces opposing you will pull out their last weapon, personal accusation. They will try to dig into your past, twist your words, misinterpret your intentions, or bait you into emotional reactions that make you look unstable. And the sad truth is, some people who once supported you may fall for the lies. This is where many chosen ones falter, not because they're wrong, but because they feel the desperate need to defend themselves in the court of public opinion. But remember this, you don't need to defend what God has already. Justified, let them talk, let them twist, let them gather their whispers, like they're collecting proof. Because when the dust settles, when the noise fades, when the enemy runs out of breath, it will be your fruit that speaks. Not your arguments, not your social media posts, not your clapbacks. Your fruit, the undeniable evidence of God's hand on your life, will be your vindication. And when that moment comes, something else will happen. People who once treated you with suspicion will suddenly come with questions. Not because they're ready to repent for doubting you, but because they're beginning to realize they need the very thing they once mocked, the God who covers you. Some of them will approach humbly. Some will come with mixed motives. Some will come because they've finally seen enough to believe. You must be ready to handle all of them without bitterness, without pride, without shutting the door out of self-protection. This is advanced training. In spiritual leadership, it's where God teaches you to carry power without letting it harden your heart, where He teaches you to be both wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove, where He teaches you that sometimes the people who hurt you most will one day be the people you help rescue. And chosen one, you were built for that. It's not just about your survival, it's about your assignment. You weren't just chosen to endure, you were chosen to transform the very atmosphere you step into. And that's why demons recognize you instantly, because the moment you walk in, the ground starts shifting, the air changes. Strongholds start trembling, not because you shout, but because of who you carry. So, as we step into the next part of this journey, remember, the recognition you carry in the spirit realm is both a target and a crown. It's the reason you've been attacked so hard, and it's the proof that you are exactly who God says you are. And you, my friend, are about to see that recognition turn into revelation. For you and for those watching from the shadows, it's strange, isn't it? How some rooms go completely quiet when you walk in. How conversations suddenly shift. How certain people glance at you, then quickly look away. like you've caught them doing something they shouldn't. This isn't about ego. This isn't about thinking you're better than anyone. This is about spiritual reality. You carry something in your spirit that forces hidden things into the light. And here's the part you need to understand. Most people don't even realize they're reacting to it. They think it's about your personality. They'll say you're too intense or hard to read, but what they're actually feeling is the weight of the anointing you carry. And the truth is, the spiritual realm sees it before the physical realm catches up. Demons are territorial. They're used to ruling certain environments without resistance. So when you walk in with the Spirit of God burning inside you, they don't just see you, they recognize you. And recognition in the spirit world isn't polite. It's alarm bells, it's sirens, it's intruder alert. That's why sometimes you can meet someone for the very first time and they'll instantly dislike you without reason. They're not responding to you as a person. They're reacting to what your presence disrupts in their spiritual atmosphere. And if you've been wondering why you're often the one singled out, misunderstood, or even scapegoated in group settings, that's why you're not just different. You're spiritually disruptive now. Here's the uncomfortable part. This level of recognition comes with a cost. The higher your calling, the sharper the resistance. When you start walking in your assignment, you'll notice that attacks don't just come from strangers. Sometimes they come from the very places you thought were safe: workplaces, church circles, even family. This isn't because those people are evil. It's because the enemy will use whoever he can influence to drain your energy, question your identity, or lure you off course. And you, chosen one, have to learn the skill of spiritual separation. I'm not talking about cutting people off in bitterness. I'm talking about recognizing when a person, place, or conversation is pulling you out of alignment with God's voice, and having the courage to step back without explaining yourself. Because here's the thing, the enemy thrives on reaction. If he can provoke you into anger, distraction, or self-defense, he can pull you into a battlefield God never asked you to fight on. And that's how many chosen ones waste years, wrestling in the wrong arenas, proving points to the wrong people, and missing the battles that actually matter. Let me give you a hard truth. Not every fight that comes your way deserves your sword. You need to know when to swing, and when to stand still and let God move. Moses understood this at the Red Sea. Israel was panicking. The enemy was closing in, and God's instruction wasn't fight harder, it was stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Sometimes the most powerful spiritual move you can make is refusing to play the enemy's game. But here's what happens when you do that. When you refuse to engage in petty battles, you preserve your strength for the real ones. When you stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, you create space for God to reveal the truth in His timing. When you resist the urge to match chaos with chaos, you carry an authority that no demon can counterfeit. And it's that authority, that still, unshaken confidence, that terrifies the enemy. You see, most spiritual warfare isn't about shouting at demons. It's about living in such alignment with God that your very lifestyle disarms them. This is why the recognition you carry is both a blessing and a responsibility. It means you have to be mindful of where you go, who you connect with, and what you allow to feed your spirit. Because every room you walk into is watching, not just with human eyes, but with spiritual eyes. And here's the part that's going to stretch you. Some of the places you're sent into will be dark by design. God doesn't always call chosen ones to stay comfortable in safe spaces. Sometimes he sends you into enemy territory, not to blend in, but to quietly shift the atmosphere. That's why you've had to go through seasons of isolation. God needed to strip away the parts of you that craved constant approval. He had to break your dependence on being understood, so that when he sends you into a room where no one affirms you, you can still stand tall and know you belong there. You're not just a light in the darkness, you're a strategic placement, and yes, that makes you a target, but it also makes you a weapon. Remember when Jesus walked into the synagogue in Mark 1, the man with an unclean spirit shouted, "I know who you are, the Holy One of God." That's recognition, that's spiritual confrontation. The demon wasn't announcing it to flatter Jesus. It was screaming because his presence had disrupted its grip on that place. Chosen one, the same thing happens with you. Your presence calls out what's been hiding. And while that can feel uncomfortable, especially when people project their discomfort onto you, it's actually part of your assignment. But here's the wisdom you need to carry with it. Your job is not to go looking for fights with darkness. Your job is to stay so rooted in God that when darkness shows up, it has no choice but to retreat. That's why you've been going through this refining season. God has been teaching you to master your emotions, to hear his whisper above the noise, and to trust his timing when vindication feels slow, because the next level you're stepping into isn't just about surviving recognition, it's about stewarding it. There will be times when you walk into a room and feel the tension in the air before anyone speaks. Don't shrink back. Don't apologize for it. Simply be who you are in Christ. You don't need to announce your authority. It's already speaking. And here's the most important thing I want you to take from this section. Recognition in the spirit realm isn't just about you. It's about the kingdom. The reason you carry this level of visibility to both angels and demons is because you are part of a much larger battle plan. Your obedience sets off a chain reaction you can't even see yet, one that reaches far beyond your personal story. The way you handle this recognition will determine how much territory God can trust you with in the future. If you stay humble, if you stay anchored, if you resist the temptation to turn your spiritual authority into personal power, you will become unstoppable, not because of who you are, but because of who you carry. So, the next time you walk into a room and feel the atmosphere shift, don't be unsettled. Remember, you were sent, you were recognized, and that recognition is not a threat, it's confirmation. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. The air in the room grew still, almost heavy, as if reality itself was holding its breath. You've probably felt that before, the strange silence that creeps in when you're about to step into something massive, something life-changing. That was the atmosphere now, not just for me, but for you too. Because if you've followed me this far, we're walking side by side into the most dangerous and most liberating part of your journey as a chosen one. Up until now, you've learned why the darkness targets you, how demons recognize the fire within you, and how the spiritual war isn't just out there, it's around you, inside you, and constantly testing you. But here's the thing most people don't realize. When you reach this stage, the attacks don't just intensify, they evolve. The enemy stops wasting energy on obvious temptations and distractions. Instead, it gets subtle, surgical. It tries to chip away at your confidence, distort your sense of identity, and make you question the very calling you've been fighting for. This is the season where you'll notice people treating you differently, not because of something you did, but because of what you carry. Some will be drawn to you as if you radiate light they've been searching for their whole lives. Others will feel discomfort in your presence, without even understanding why, the truth. That's the Holy Spirit on you, the spiritual anointing that can't be hidden, the mark that has always separated you from the crowd. And while the enemy can't erase it, it will do everything it can to make you forget it's there. I remember a time when I was deep in this very season. Everything around me seemed to be collapsing. Friends who had been close for years began to drift away without explanation. Doors I thought were divinely opened suddenly slammed shut. I'd walk into rooms and feel the shift instantly. Conversations would go quiet, eyes would follow me, and I could almost hear the unspoken questions. Who does he think he is? Why does his presence change the atmosphere? And you know what? I started asking myself those same questions. That's how the enemy works at this stage. It doesn't just attack from the outside. It tries to plant seeds inside you. Seeds of doubt, of fear, of confusion. It wants you to believe that you're imagining the spiritual weight you carry, that you're not really as called or as chosen as you've been told. But those are lies, and they're strategic ones. Because if the darkness can make you question your identity, it can make you step away from the authority you've been given. Let me speak directly to you now, because I need you to catch this in your spirit. Every time you've walked into a room and felt like the atmosphere shifted, that wasn't your imagination. Every time someone you barely knew opened up to you with their deepest pain, that wasn't random. Every time you felt resistance, in places where others were welcomed easily, that wasn't because you're unworthy. It's because the spiritual realm knows exactly who you are, even when you forget. Here's the raw truth. The closer you get to your destiny, the more your spirit begins to leak light. You can't hide it, you can't suppress it, and you certainly can't fake it. That light is a beacon to the lost, to the hungry, to those in need of hope, and to the enemy. Demons don't just see you, they feel you coming. Your presence agitates the darkness because it carries the authority to destroy it. And authority is dangerous to them. But here's the catch. Authority without awareness is useless. Think of a soldier who's been given the highest grade weapon but doesn't realize it's in his hands. The weapon has power, but it won't change anything unless the soldier learns how to use it. In this stage of your journey, God is teaching you how to use what you've been carrying all along. That means you'll be put in situations where you have no choice but to draw on your spiritual authority. It's uncomfortable, sometimes even terrifying, but it's necessary. One night, not long after a series of personal losses, I had a vivid dream. I was walking through a dark forest, the kind where every step feels like it's pulling you deeper into the unknown. Shadows moved just beyond my vision, and I could hear whispers, taunting, accusing, trying to lure me off the path. My heart pounded, and every instinct told me to turn back. But then I realized something. The path I was on was faintly glowing beneath my feet. The light wasn't coming from the forest. It was coming from me. And as I kept walking, the shadows started shrinking away. When I woke up, I knew exactly what it meant. God was showing me that my calling wasn't about avoiding darkness. It was about walking straight through it with the light He placed inside me. That's your calling too. Not to hide, not to blend in, but to illuminate every space you enter, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Especially if it makes the darkness uncomfortable. This is where the spiritual battle becomes deeply personal. The enemy will send people into your life who mirror your pain, not to heal it, but to deepen it. You'll encounter opportunities that look like blessings, but are actually traps meant to drain your strength. And you'll face moments where the easiest option is to shrink back, to dim your light just to stop the opposition, but you cannot afford to do that. The cost of hiding your light is far greater than the cost of shining it. There's something else you need to know. The anointing on your life doesn't just protect you, it protects those connected to you. When you step into your authority, the people in your orbit are covered in ways they don't even realize. That's why some of your relationships are so heavily attacked. The enemy knows that if it can pull you out of alignment, it can expose everyone you're called to protect. That's why you can't just think about yourself in this battle. You're carrying people, even nations, in your spiritual DNA. So what do you do in this stage? You root yourself deeper than ever before. You pray not just when you're in trouble, but as a daily rhythm. You fast not to earn God's favor, but to sharpen your spirit so you can discern the difference between opportunity and distraction. You saturate yourself in the Word until the truth becomes louder than the lies. And you surround yourself with people who see your light and are not intimidated by it. You'll also have to accept something that's hard. For most chosen ones, not everyone can go where you're going. You'll have to release some people with love, knowing that your presence in their life is either a blessing they can receive or a truth they'll reject. Either way, your job isn't to force them to understand, it's to keep walking your path. The right ones will be drawn to your light. The wrong ones will be repelled by it. And that's how it's supposed to be. I know it can feel lonely. I know it can feel like the weight you're carrying is too much. But I also know that God never places a mantle on someone without equipping them to carry it. You are more prepared than you realize. Every battle you've survived up to this point was not just survival, it was training. Every rejection, every betrayal, every spiritual attack was shaping you into the kind of warrior the darkness fears. And here's the wild part. You haven't even stepped into the fullness of your calling yet. What you've experienced so far has just been the build-up. The enemy is already trembling at what you carry now. Imagine how it will react when you start operating at full capacity. That's why this stage is so critical. If the darkness can't destroy you, it will try to delay you. But delays are only powerful if you agree to them. So here's my challenge to you. Starting right now, decide that you will not shrink back. Decide that you will walk into every room as if you were sent there by divine appointment, because you were. Decide that you will speak when you're led to speak, pray when you're led to pray, and move when you're led to move. That kind of obedience terrifies the enemy more than anything else. You've come too far to stop now. The next stage of your journey will test you in ways you've never been tested before, but it will also reveal levels of authority you didn't know you had. And when that happens, when you see the darkness scatter before you, you'll understand why demons have recognized you all along. But before you step into that next phase, there's one more thing you need to hear. The attacks you've survived so far, they weren't random, they were a map. And if you trace them carefully, you'll see they've been pointing you towards something massive. Something that, when you fully grasp it, will change the way you see everything, including yourself. The night was darker than any you had seen in years. Not just because of the absence of light, but because the air itself felt heavier, almost as though the atmosphere was pressing against your skin, testing the limits of your endurance. You knew what this meant. Something had crossed into your path again, drawn by that same mark you've carried since before you could speak. But this time, you weren't the same person you were months ago. This time, you had faced enough storms to understand their language. This time, your spirit didn't flinch. You walked slowly through the street, your steps echoing faintly off the cold walls. The wind curled around your ears, carrying with it whispers, not in any language you could speak, but you understood them nonetheless. They were calling your name, not as a friend, not as an invitation, but as a challenge. And this is what I need you to realize. Chosen ones don't walk into battles uninvited. Battles come to you. Trouble hunts you down, not because you're weak, but because you radiate something they can't control. That presence you carry, it's not charisma, not personality, not even just faith. It's a spiritual frequency, higher than the ordinary, sharper than the natural I can see. Darkness recognizes it like a wolf recognizes the scent of a predator, because you, even if you've never realized it, are not prey. You've been walking through seasons where you've wondered why the pressure has been constant, why it feels like you don't even get time to breathe between one trial and the next. But here's the truth. The pressure is proof. It's the signal flare that the enemy has spotted you. It's confirmation that you have something worth attacking. And here's the twist. They're not trying to destroy you because they can. They're trying to destroy you because they can't. The more they push, the more it reveals the one thing that terrifies them. You can't be broken the way ordinary people can. That night, as you crossed that empty intersection, you felt the energy shift. You stopped walking. You closed your eyes for just a moment, and instead of letting fear dictate your next step, you opened your spirit wider. That's when you felt it. It was close. Not physically, maybe not even in a form your human eyes could register, but you knew it was there, circling, sizing you up, trying to find an entry point. This is how darkness works. It studies you. It knows your weak moments, your unhealed wounds, the fractures in your faith. It waits for you to forget who you are. But that night, you didn't forget. You remembered everything. You remembered the nights you cried until your chest ached and your prayers seemed to fall flat. You remembered the mornings you woke up, not because you had strength, but because something inside you wouldn't let you stay down. You remembered how many times you've been written off, underestimated and misjudged. And then you remembered the truth. You were still here. You turned slowly, as if you could catch a glimpse of what was watching you. The street was empty, but in your spirit, you could feel the weight of its stare. And that's when you spoke, not loudly, not even with your full voice, but with the authority that comes from knowing you've survived too much to be intimidated. I know who I am. Those words may seem small, but in the unseen realm, they're a battle cry. The wind shifted again. The heaviness didn't disappear, but it recoiled, like something had been burned. You stood taller. You took another step forward, not because the street ahead was safe, but because you knew it was yours to walk. Here's what's important for you to understand. Chosen ones don't win because the fight is easy. They win because the fight can't stop them. You have walked through fires you never told anyone about. You've bled silently. You've been your own encourager in moments when no one showed up to check if you were okay. That's why your spirit has a scent. The darkness can't mistake it's the scent of someone who's walked through hell and didn't lose their praise the following day. The weight of the night still lingered in the back of your mind. But instead of letting it trouble you, you wore it like a reminder. People noticed it too, that subtle shift in your eyes. The way you moved like someone who knew more than they were saying. They couldn't place it. They thought maybe you'd just gotten more confident, or that you'd finally let go of some old burden. But you knew the truth. You'd faced the thing that came for you, and it had to leave empty-handed. And that, my friend, is why they hate you. They hate that no matter what they throw at you, you rise again. They hate that your light doesn't come from human applause. but from something ancient and unshakable within you. They hate that when they whisper lies, you speak truth. But here's the beauty in this. Every time they come for you and fail, you get stronger, your discernment sharpens, your connection deepens. Your spirit grows less reactive and more anchored that when you walked into that cafe later that afternoon, you didn't even notice at first, but a man sitting in the corner stopped mid-sentence as you passed by. His eyes followed you, but not in the way people usually look. It was sharper, intentional. Something in your spirit prickled. You didn't know him, but you recognized the look. The recognition wasn't about you as a person. It was about the power you carried. He wasn't looking at your clothes or your face. He was staring into the part of you that can't be dressed up or hidden. You sat down, ordered your drink, and kept your eyes forward. The energy in the room shifted slightly. You knew you could confront it if you wanted, but this time, you chose to let your presence speak louder than any words, and it worked. Within minutes, he left without finishing his drink, and you knew without a doubt he had been sent not by curiosity, but by something that wanted information on you, something that wanted to read your spirit up close. But here's the thing about being chosen. They can look, they can watch, they can circle you, but they can't touch you without permission. And when your spirit is anchored, that permission is never given. Later that night, you thought about how many moments like this you'd been through, how many rooms you've walked into where the atmosphere changed, how many times someone looked at you too long because they sensed something they couldn't name, and you realized something. Every time this happens, it's another reminder that you're not ordinary. You can't blend in because you were never made to. By the time you fell asleep that night, you didn't just rest. You slept like someone who knew they'd crossed another threshold, and somewhere in that invisible realm that has tracked you since the day you were born, they took note of it too. Not with joy, not with victory, but with a quiet, frustrated understanding that once again, they failed. You're standing in the center of the storm. Not a storm of wind or rain, but the storm that's been raging in your life, in your spirit, in your mind for years. The battles that left you bruised, the betrayals that cut deeper than any blade, the loneliness that almost convinced you to quit. And yet here you are. The enemy thought by now you'd be gone, forgotten, that the weight would finally crush you, that the constant battles would erode every ounce of your strength. But what they never understood is this: a chosen one is forged in fire, and fire does not destroy gold, it refines it. The darkness around you tightens, sensing this is its last chance. You feel the shadows coil like smoke, the whispers in the air trying to tell you you're still unworthy, that you've just been lucky, that it's only a matter of time before you fall again. But your spirit, your real self, has been listening to a different voice, the quiet one inside, the one that's been with you since you were a child, when you didn't have the words for it yet, the one that whispered in the worst nights, "You're not done. Stand up." You look up. The ground trembles, but it's not fear in your bones this time. It's something else. Something awakening. Something the enemy always feared would happen. You realize it now. All those years of trial weren't just attacks. They were training. Every betrayal was sharpening your discernment. Every heartbreak was carving out space in you for a greater love. Every season of isolation was anchoring you so deeply that when you walk into your next calling, nothing will move you. And now, the final test stands in front of you. It doesn't look like a demon this time. It doesn't have horns or claws or red eyes. It looks like you, but not the real you. The version of you that believed the lies. The version of you that almost gave up. The version of you that thought you were unworthy of the power within you. It smiles, cold, mocking. This is who you really are. It says, not the warrior you think you've become. You're still broken. You're still nothing. For a moment, the weight of those old words tries to choke you. But something shifts. You see through it for what it is, because now you know the truth. Demons don't just fear your light. They fear you realizing you had it all along. You step closer. Your shadow self trembles. Who told you I was nothing? You ask, it sneers, but doesn't answer. Who told you I was weak? Still silence. And then you speak the words you've been holding in your spirit for years. I am not who I was. I am who I was chosen to be. And you have no place here anymore. The air rips open with light. Not a light from the sky, a light from within you. It floods out, slamming into that shadow, breaking it apart piece by piece until it shatters like glass. The darkness pulls back, hissing, vanishing into the corners. It came from, and just like that, it's quiet, but not empty. Full of peace you haven't felt in years. You breathe, and it's different now.